Yeah, physical presence does make a difference. Apparently, they could hear me online, but it does make it harder for you to answer the questions, Mark. So you can't actually hear it. Mark, thanks for your work and for your service. Please pass on our condolences to the families of the 7 that we have lost on CBP, and a lot of folks that live every day with the threats that are coming at them. As every person coming across the border, they don't get the privilege of being socially distanced from, and they're not wearing masks when they come across. It's a very different environment for them. So for those folks, please tell them thank you for the work that they continue to do. I want to back up on a series of questions dealing with seizures. I know CBP has been very engaged in seizing fake testing kits, and fake medications, fake masks, N95 masks. What's the status on that, and what are you seeing?
Absolutely, sir. And unfortunately, every time that there's a crisis, from a law enforcement perspective, the first thing we get together collectively is we set up a task force because we know that criminals are going to take advantage of it. And COVID-19 has been no exception. And that's right. So we've really gotten together as a USG. We've gotten together with a host of investigative agencies to really focus on this. And hundreds of thousands of fake masks have been recovered. Countless COVID tests have been recovered that really could have done serious harm to the American consumer had it gotten into their hands. And this is something that, as we're trying to implement the travel restrictions and stop COVID from coming into our country, we're still been equally as committed to this.
Appreciate that very much. You also made a comment earlier that the number of individuals illegally crossing the border has decreased, and the apprehensions obviously have been along those same lines as well. The amount of drugs coming into the country has increased per pound. Are you seeing changes in amounts? Are you seeing more meth, more fentanyl, more cocaine? Are there trends that you're seeing in that as well? It's not only total amounts, but are you seeing, what I'm looking for is types of drugs as well?
Absolutely. So the 4 hard narcotics that I call, they're increasing, and especially from this time last year. I think I said in my opening, methamphetamine, for example, just from last month increased 66%. And I think I'll get the numbers if I'm off a little bit, but from this time last year, it's up 20-30% from this time last year. And what we're seeing, the cartels do what they do best. They change their tactics and techniques quicker than anything that I've ever seen in the history of law enforcement. And so when COVID hit, it impacted them. I'll give you a quick example. So the number of vehicles coming across have dropped by 65%. And so their normal mode was to smaller loads and vehicles and just try to get them through the masses, and it was fairly effective. And now, since the number of vehicles coming through has drastically reduced, that's not working as more. So now they're going to the cargo environment because cargo has continued to flow the entire time. And so now they're taking a little bit risk, and they're actually putting larger loads in the cargo to getting through. So they're shifting. But now we're seeing them take greater risk. They're using pedestrians more, body carries, and we've seen them continue to shift, and they're effective.
We know the cartels make a significant amount of money in transporting families and children across the border. That's been a significant amount, as well as single adults, as the cartels are a major income source, along with drugs, to be able to move people. Obviously, with the significant drop of people, is it your assumption that we're seeing the increase in drugs because they want to be able to keep their same income source? Or why do you think we're seeing the increase in drugs at this point?
Oh, absolutely, sir. I think you're spot on. I think that's part of it. I mean, that's what they do, right? Is they'll go anything to them for a profit. And if something is being hit and taking profit away, they're just going to shift to another entity to make profit. And as I said, so from this time last year, overall pre-COVID, 76% reduction. Since COVID, we've had an overall 84% reduction in the total flow from this time last May. So you can imagine that's taken billions of dollars out of their pocket. So they're absolutely shifting. That's why I think we're going to continue to see an increase of drugs come in this country. I think that's why we've seen an increase of the hard narcotics increase across the board. They're changing their tactics. They're going into the sea more. They're doing what we call mixed loads now, both drugs and smuggling humans as well. And so they're really branching out. We're seeing them use air more, tunnels more. They're expanding as much as they can.
Okay. The Title 42 authorities dealing with a health emergency and communicable disease overseas and from people transiting into the country at this point. There's a significant amount of authorities that are there. Walk me through how those are actually applied, those Title 42 authorities, and what you think the difference is in the enforcement and the number of people trying to cross. Because obviously there's still a lot of people that want to be able to come to the United States. What difference do you think those Title 42 authorities make, and what are they?
So it's been significant. I think if I can, I have to back up fairly quickly to put it in context. Prior to COVID and prior to Title 42, because of administration initiative policies, we had already made a significant decrease in the flow. Again, 76%. We went from 20,000 in custody to 3,400 in custody prior to COVID. Okay, now COVID, Title 42. What we saw initially, March 21st, within the first probably 2-3 weeks, we saw a 50% decline in those trying to attempt to illegally enter. That was significant. I mean, it really shows that the individual listened to the medical experts, they're self-quarantining, they're not taking the risk from a public health perspective, and it was working. What we've seen now, though, is we're seeing the numbers start to increase a little bit, especially Mexican nationals. So now we've seen that shift in demographics 100%, about 75, 80% now Mexican nationals, and that's a shift from what it was last year.
Okay, do you think that the count of Mexican nationals is increasing, or the percentage is increasing?
The percentage is increasing.
Okay, but you think the count is close, folks that are other than Mexican has declined that much?
That's correct. If you look this time last year, I think it was around 17.5. This past month, it was almost that, but the percentage increased. But what we're concerned about, though, is that, again, as we get on the other side of COVID, Mexico's economy, really, Western Hemisphere's economy is really bad. We think that that's going to create an additional pull factor because of economic conditions.
The last number that I saw was this fiscal year, which would be October the 1st of last year until the end of May this year, about 276,000 people that had been apprehended that are inadmissible. Those were either at ports of entry or between ports of entry along the southwest border. Does that number seem about right?
Yes, it does.
So around 250,000 at this point that we had picked up during that time period. That's a significant decrease from what we've seen in the past, but that's a very large number. I also thought it was interesting as well. I went back to look at the number of people that were given naturalization last year, to be able to just look at the last year that we have a full year of naturalization. 833,000 people legally went through the process and were naturalized. That's an 11-year high. So one of the things that I just want to be able to mention to you is this administration has continued to be able to accelerate into legal immigration and naturalization with an 11-year high for the number of people that legally went through the process to be naturalized, but have also been very, very focused on declining illegal admissions into the country. So just, again, tell your folks thank you for the work that you continue to do to be able to enforce the law and continue to be able to protect your people. Thank you.
Yes, sir. And I will, if I can, I thank you for that. And I thank the chairman and the ranking member earlier too, is I will take that back. And I can tell you, the men and women out there, when they hear that from their elected leaders, it means something. So I will take that back, sir. Thank you.